Start transmission. 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting to you live from the Static Clan compound, you are now listening to the Jaysin Static Experience, a podcast from an award-winning nobody, noted raconteur, Renaissance man, a man with a sailor's mouth, but he has never sailed, and who likes to talk about a cornucopia of topics. This podcast is brought to you by www.jaysinstatic.com, a place filled with all your pop culture, antiques, and collectible needs. And now your host, the one and only Jaysin Static. Welcome back, everybody. Jaysin Static with another episode of the Jaysin Static Experience. And today I have a treat for you guys. Like I always say, a treat. Why do I have a treat? Because I have an old friend of mine. I went to high school with this guy. I think I even went to middle school with this guy. But he has a very, very interesting story. He has a YouTube channel called Millionaire Vlogs. Go check that out, you guys. But other than that, and I'm going to leave you guys hanging a little bit to let him explain what's going on and why he has a YouTube channel called Millionaire Vlogs and why the hell am I even talking to him? But without further ado, my friend Brad, Millionaire Vlogs. What's up, my brother? How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about all this.
No problem, man. You were one of the guys that I wanted to try to get on just to have a conversation with. I think you got a really cool, interesting story. And for those of my fan base who doesn't know him or what he does or what his actual story is, just give a little bit of a brief primer of what your story is.
Well, it was 2016. I became Missouri's first ever scratch-off winner to win $10 million on a scratch-off, not Powerball or lottery, numbers. It was an actual $30 scratch-off. They had 3 top prizes, and I was the first one to find the top prize. So.
Yeah, I remember the day. I remember the day that you that you posted about that. I was just like, damn, like that.
Yeah,
that was literally my. I was like, damn.
I think the first few weeks after it happened, I kind of, I didn't say anything on Facebook, obviously for privacy reasons. But once it got out there, the story got out, it was, inevitable. It was going to be found out. So I'm like, oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah. What's that? What's that? The initial shock of pulling something like that? Because everybody, everybody in the world has played, lottery tickets at least once in their life, most likely. Mm-hmm. And most people won't ever hit something that large. I think the largest I've ever hit was like $100, and I was ecstatic, man. I was just like, I was like, fuck yeah, $100, man. What was that initial feeling like? Like, it's just like, man.
I was in the store. Because I think on the way home from work that morning, I stopped at multiple places because I worked midnights and I was, I'd get tired. I would just pull over and play a couple tickets. And so I was in the back of the store when it happened. So that like screaming out, jumping up and down didn't happen because I didn't want to draw attention to myself. But when I scratched off because I started on the right-hand side of the ticket where the zeros would be at. I went in and I just started scratching it, and I stopped. I'm like, wait a second, these are some different looking zeros, and they're way out there. And the first thing I thought was, okay, man, this is a $1 million winner,
Yeah.
And then when I saw the 10, I'm like, oh, no, this has got to be fake. This has got to be a misprint, can't be real, because you dream about this stuff. You don't ever expect it to happen in real life. And it took like 10 scans of the ticket because they had a little self-scanner right there. It took about 10 times scanning it and seeing that on the screen say 10 million, claim it at the lottery.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is real. And the whole shock didn't really happen until I got to my car because I just folded the ticket up and I walked out the store. Like I didn't say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And then I got to the car. I started kind of hyperventilating, couldn't really breathe, and called the parents. And then it kind of set in. I mean, to this day, it still doesn't feel real, obviously.
Yeah.
But there wasn't no jumping up and down or screaming or anything like that because I didn't want to draw attention to myself.
Yeah, I mean, we live on the lower side of the St. Louis area, for the most part. Mm-hmm. A little bit south of the St. Louis area, where me and you both live. So, it's one of those situations where like I can understand not wanting to draw attention to yourself because there's somebody out there probably would have run up on you and been like, yo, give me that right now.
Yeah, and that's why, which I didn't do it, but it's wise if you ever did. If you're in the store or even at home, is to sign the back of the ticket. Because if you sign it, then if somebody steals it from you, they can't cash it. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's something I didn't know.
I didn't do that. Obviously, I learned that afterwards. I'm like, oh man, I should have signed the ticket. So definitely sign the ticket if you win something that big. So.
Now we're not going to get into like the whole, financial planning type aspects, but, because, we're all obviously not financial planner type things, so anything that we say in this, guys, just for a reference, it's his personal dealings. It's not a financial planner's advice. We're not qualified in that. We're just two guys talking and having a conversation. I just want to preface all that by anything else that we say. So
definitely take everything. Not a tax return either. We don't know much about taxes. I get that question a lot. Like, man, what do you do for taxes? What's your taxes? I'm like, I can't really tell you what you're going to pay because I don't have that. I don't know what you make. So definitely don't give tax advice or financial advice. I just give people what's working for me. So
So what was the initial? What did you do? What did you do initially after you won? And I'm asking that because just for anybody who rolls with me or might see this podcast later, what is something that you would advise people to do after they win any sort of amount where they have to go collect at
definitely.
Any big number, essentially,
Yeah, sign the back of the ticket. Even if it's a draw game, there's a thing on the back of the ticket to sign. Definitely sign it, put it in a safe spot. And one thing that I almost did was when I went home, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to go up to the lottery office. I'm going to cash this, and I'm just going to have a great day. Nothing can stop me. I had that mindset. Mm-hmm. But then there's something in the back of my head was like, you know what? Wait a second. This is a lot of money. You need to find somebody to talk to about this because you could, but to put that much money in a checking account is not very smart. Yeah. So I just went to Google and typed in financial advisors near me. And the one that came up was like 5 minutes away. So definitely talk to a financial advisor, either be Edward Jones or anybody that, I've had a few people that worked in their basement wanted to come and talk to them. Like, no, find you a reputable financial advisor for sure.
Now, what was it? What the wife and family, what was their reactions to the whole thing?
I called mom and dad first because the wife was working at school. I couldn't just give her a call, so I sent her an email and I put in like capital letters, emergency, call me now, because I was thinking, well, maybe she'll think something's like wrong with the kids, even though it wasn't, but that way she would call me. And so I called mom and dad first. They didn't believe me. So dad's like, send me a picture. So I sent them a picture, and then they called me back and was freaking out. And, they were pretty ecstatic. So I think I drove home like 20 miles an hour on the interstate because I was like, I don't want to wreck. I could probably would have got pulled over for going too slow, but I just took my time getting home. They were in shock. I called the mother-in-law. She was, like, oh my God, you for real?
Yeah.
And then when the wife actually called me a few hours later, she actually hung up on me. She goes, I don't believe you. She's like, I gotta go. And then she hung up the phone. I'm like, okay.
That sounds like something my wife would do. I don't believe you.
Yeah, she sent me an email after that. She goes, well, send me a picture with your face in it so I, know what I'm looking at. So I did that. And then she called me or texted me back and said, I can't believe this. I'm like, I can't either.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I mean, I don't know if I can hit it home enough, but it is one of those things that's, it's almost an unbelievable, because how many big winners off scratch off, in particular in Missouri, has there been like that?
Ooh, it's hard to say because there's been a lot of tickets that had $1 million top prizes, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. But 10 million was the biggest they've had and probably will ever have. I know if you count all the millionaires in Missouri that have won off draw games and scratch offs, there's only like 140 or 150 total since the lottery has opened up.
Right.
If I'm, correct on that. But there hasn't been too many. But on scratch games, I'm not quite sure how many people have actually won that top prize of $1 million plus. So
yeah,
there's some games that don't ever give out the last top prize. They'll have to end them. So not all of them go on.
What is what made you decide to get into YouTube?
It was probably
and we can talk about YouTube. I know you had some instances on YouTube. So have I.
That was a good time. Yeah, I was watching those channels before I even won. I just saw. I was like, who the hell would watch this stuff? People scratching lottery tickets and stuff on camera, and I'm like, what's the point of this? And then I started watching them more, and I'm like, oh, they're trying to see if they can hit a big prize, live on camera for the views and stuff. And
right.
And then there wasn't too many channels at the time that did full books. Like you go out and buy a whole book of lottery tickets. I'm like, man, that's a good idea. So I started doing that, and the views and the subs just started pouring in because nobody ever really saw that. It's kind of hard to shell out $600 for a whole book of tickets.
Right.
And that's kind of how I got into it because I didn't see many people doing that. So.
Right. Now, did you get backlash from like that community by doing something like that at all, or did they just like openly welcome you?
It was mixed. I mean, there was a lot of people that said I was, going to go broke and spending all my money and this is stupid. And then there's the other side that said, man, this is so awesome because I can't afford to do a book of tickets. It's cool to see what's in a whole book of tickets. And
right.
I had more of that than I had the hate. So
yeah. How did you how'd your initial investment? Because I know what you did on the backside of your YouTube. With the how you essentially provided to be able to do books and stuff like that. Like explain to the people a little bit how you did to that. So they're not like thinking like, oh yeah, this guy's just going, dropping 600, 1,000 on full books of stuff. Explain to the people what you did there.
Well, after we won, me and the wife, we each got a little bit of money to just use for ourselves. I don't remember the exact amount, but I started out using that. And then after a while, I started getting paid from YouTube. Mm-hmm. And it started out being like $100 a month. And then it just kept snowballing from there. And then one thing that really propelled me into doing that is when I went to Vegas, I think it was my birthday weekend in 2017. And I ended up winning. I took $10,000 with me. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up winning $154,000. And that's what really funded my channel. When I say $154,000, I didn't come home with $154,000. I actually came home with about 70 because the high limit room, you can spend a lot of money before you can hit something. But I still won like 60 grand profit.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what helped on it.
Well, I mean, that's something most people, that's another thing that most people grind on YouTube forever. I know that I've grinded on YouTube for a long time now, and I've hit that 1,000 sub mark, but the type of content that I pushed out on YouTube was, I guess you could say, a little bit risque. It's a lot more along the lines of political commentary mm-hmm. and all kinds of stuff like that. So I knew what I was getting myself into. Plus, I have a mouth on me, and that's not good for the YouTube algorithms and stuff like that. And so eventually, I got the boot from the YouTube AdSense program because I was a bad little boy.
I would say 2016 or 2016. But whenever I started in 2016, it was only you needed 100 subs and that was it. And you can monetize them. I did that pretty quick.
Yeah.
But now it's like 1,000 subs and 4,000 hours.
Yeah, 4,000. Yeah, 4,000 watch hours.
It takes a while.
What was your little? I mentioned it briefly a second ago. What was your tie up with YouTube that you had on your first instance of doing YouTube? I know you're back for a second round. What was that first instance?
To this day, I still don't understand fully what they meant because I was on my way to a meeting that morning for Cardinal Glennon, and I got this notification on my phone that said, email from YouTube said your channel is no longer able to monetize. I'm like, what the hell? So I opened it up and it said that your channel was in violation of reused content. I'm like, what the hell is reused content? First thing that came to my mind is like, maybe I posted a video 2 times, on accident.
Yeah.
So I reached out to YouTube. I'm like, hey, what is this? He goes, you just got to read the community guidelines to find out. I'm like, that doesn't tell me a fucking thing. What am I supposed to do to fix this? And they ended up denying the appeal and all that. So I just hung the towel up. I'm like, I'm not going to put up with this, because I felt I didn't do anything wrong. So.
Right. I'm of that thing. I'm of that ilk too. Like when I got my AdSense pulled, I was just like, I didn't really do anything wrong. I say a lot of wrong things, just for the YouTube algorithms. And I understood that instance where, the way that I speak and the way that I talk, with, cussing and the things I talk about, I knew that it would hinder me. But at that point in time, when they took my AdSense, I hadn't done a video in over a month.
So it must have been something old that
essentially what happened with me, same as you, is I got an email saying that I have no chance of getting my ads, I demonetized type thing. So I was just like, okay. I was just like, well, I guess I'm going to hit up YouTube real quick to see what the deal is. And they essentially said, if I want to clean up my YouTube, they essentially told me that, almost similar to you, where I was using other people's content without doing anything different to it. But if you went back and looked at my catalog of videos that I had at the time, there were cases where I changed the actual video, adding commentary over the top of it. Changing it in ways like I took a song of a wrestler and I added it to a bunch of video clips of Trump just because it was funny.
Yeah.
Because it said "Bask in His Glory." The name of the song was "Bask in His Glory," so it was just something that I did for fun to troll. And it was a lot of pictures and videos and memes, and that completely changed the thing. And that's, for the most part, that's considered fair use, because you essentially change the entire aspect of what it is.
Exactly. I don't think the algorithm machine understands that.
Yeah. So
a lot of channels were getting hit at that time too. But they ended up getting their monetization back. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this stuff. Yeah. It was what I was spending per month. I'm like, I can't spend this much and not have any money coming in from YouTube. I'm like, I'm not going to use my own money to fund this channel. So
right. So essentially, I messaged YouTube, and they essentially told me the same thing for the most part, except for they also added the, well, if you want to clean up your channel, you can apply for AdSense later on.
Yeah, that's what they told me.
And I was just like, well, should I continue to stay the course and change, or should I continue to stay and be who I am and do what I do, and essentially crap on everything that I said previously for the previous 2 years about, standing my ground no matter what I do or no matter what I say type stuff? Or should I bend the knee for that quick YouTube buck?
Yeah.
So I decided, I was just like, you know what, screw it. I'm not gonna deal with it. And still to this day, I still do YouTube. My podcast goes up on YouTube. I don't get anything from it, and I probably never will. But it's one of those instances where, my podcast goes out to several different places: Spotify, Podbean, YouTube. I just started putting them on BitChute. And I'm looking for more avenues. I'm thinking about trying to push it towards like Apple Podcast, all of those different platforms. It's just one of those things where, YouTube is I don't know.
It's a lot different than what it was when I first started in 2016. You could cuss words, you could say whatever. I mean, there's limitations of what you could do on video, obviously. But today, ever since that adpocalypse, it's really changed. And there's been some instances after that that's made it even worse. Like now with the whole kids stuff, you can't, like when I post a video of Nora, there's no comments allowed. You've got to say it's for, it's made for kids, this whole COPA thing. It's definitely not as fun as it used to be.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm pretty careful on what I say now. I mean, I'm not making much. It's really fell off since I first got monetized, because I think I was making $80-90 a day. Now I'm down to like $8 or $9 a day. So it fluctuates a lot. 1 minute you're in the algorithm and it's just carrying you, and then the next minute it just tosses you to the side and be like, we're done. So
yeah, and that's the life of YouTube. Is it's a very touch and go type situation with YouTube, because one day you're high and hot, and the next minute you're on the bottom.
Yep. That's kind of where I'm at now until it just gets the algorithm picks me back up again, and that's the way my old channel worked too. It'd be 1 month I would make $1,500, and then the next month I would make $4,500. It just depends on what gets recommended and what catches people's attention. So
yeah, what is you said that you talked to a financial advisor, or what was that initial quest to find that financial advisor?
Went to Google. That's because I didn't know anybody personally, so I just went to Google and typed in financial advisors near me. He came up because he was in Herculaneum and I was in Peevely, so it was pretty close. And
right.
So I gave them a call. As I called up the secretary, I'm like, hey, can I come and talk to him? I told her what happened. Hey, I won $10 million this morning. And then she went in and talked to him, and he didn't believe it because he thought it was one of his buddies, calling and pranking him, because who comes into your office and says, hey, I won $10 million? Not very often. So,
right.
And then they finally said, hey, show up at this time. And so I came in with the ticket. And once I showed him the ticket, he was like, okay, I believe you now. So, and then he took me to lunch and we talked. And then that evening, I think the wife came in there and we talked to him some more. And he brought his lawyer friend and his CPA friend in. And we just had a little meeting and we got pretty comfortable, and we hired him on the spot because Edward Jones is pretty reputable. It's not like, say if you were a CPA or an advisor, it's just working in your basement and like, I don't trust this guy, So
right.
He just can't run off with my money. So.
Right. So what did you how did you take the money when you initially won it? Like, I know there's different ways that you can take it. What was that way that you initially took that?
I actually talked to him. I was like, what's the best way? It all depends on, how old you are, what's your goals, when do you want to retire, like right. How much money do you want to have when you retire? So it varies from person to person, but we ended up taking the lump sum, which was $6.8 million is what that quote unquote prize was worth at that time. That's right. The base amount they give you. Or you could take $400,000 a year before taxes for 25 years, which comes out to be the 10 million, but that's before taxes. So right. You'd get about $240 to $260 a year after taxes for 25 years guaranteed. So we ended up taking a lump sum right off the bat. So whatever works for you.
Yeah, man. So, what is what was some of the stuff that you initially did, like afterwards? Like in the immediate aftermath of winning that. Because you hear people going on like sprees, and then by the next morning they've already lost. Yeah, they've already lost, like they've already lost everything that they did because they ended up going out and buying like 13 Lamborghinis and
that's the mistake some people do.
And a pound of cocaine and a bunch of hookers. I think.
Yeah, they don't. A lot of people they think whenever they win, and the lottery has a set amount of taxes they take out. It's just standard. Yeah. It's same for you, same for me, because they don't know what you make a year, what your deductions are. So they just take 29% out. That's what they take from you that day. And a lot of people think that's all I got to pay. I'm done with my taxes. That's not true. If you win millions of dollars, you're in a very, very high tax bracket. Like mine was 45.6%. So never think that you're done paying your taxes. But when I left the advisor's office after we met that day for lunch, I actually drove over to St. Paul car dealership there in Herculaneum, and I was just looking at cars and Corvettes and Camaros and stuff, because I was driving a 2014 Chevy Spark, a little bitty car. It was a good little gas getter. It got me to work and back. But that was the first thing I did, was I went to a dealership just to look, because I had that mindset of I could pretty much buy any vehicle I want here. So that was kind of the first thing I did. First things we bought were our cars. So
that Vet that you ended up buying was pretty damn sweet.
Yeah, I miss it some days, but that's one of the things I regret, is what I did to that thing, like building it out, putting a supercharger on it and the wheels and all this money that I just pretty much just wasted, because you don't get that back. And if I could go back and do it all over again, I would definitely just keep it the way it was. So that was a stupid thing on my part. So live and learn.
I've told people many times, like if I want any type of money situation, anything like that, like anything to be substantial, like I would get my Datsun fixed. That would be like I'd put money into my Datsun, because I love my fucking Datsun. So That would probably be what I would look at. I don't think I would be one of those people that would go out and buy a brand new car.
Yeah, that's kind of probably the best thing to do, because new vehicles, you just lose so much money. And that's why I don't pay cash anymore.
Yeah,
it's just throwing money away. A lot of people are looking at me like, why is a millionaire financing a car? Are you broke? It's like, well, if I'm broke, I'm not going to go out and finance a car. So I won't go buy them. But whenever we paid our first cars, we actually did a wire transfer, paid cash, and it's just money out the window, because I paid $60,000 for the vet, and then like 6 months later, they tried talking me into getting the Z06, which is the upgrade from that, and they offered me $35,000 for the trade-in. 6 months later, $15,000 is just gone. You ain't getting that back. So
yeah, I can see where that'd be a little bit. Yeah. One of those, you wish you wouldn't have done it type stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, I'd be one of those people. I have 3 favorite cars. I have my Datsun. I like a 66 Cadillac Coupe de Ville and a 51 Merc.
And those would actually hold value.
And those cars, if I bought any type of car, those would probably be the cars that I would buy. And it's just because I like them. They're 3 of my all-time favorite type cars. So being able to obtain those cars, I think I would be far more ecstatic to get that, to put money and invest money into those places. Because buying an old beat up jalopy is it's an investment, and I think it's a good investment for down the road, especially if you're like a collector, or if you're somebody that just wants to build and sell type stuff.
Yeah, because there's not too many of those. I mean, like with the vet I bought, they made 35,000, 40,000 of those, and it is on old value. So I mean, there's people out there that would do that, just an old beater and just fix it up, because it's more sentimental to them than just buying something that everybody else has. So
yeah, because especially those 2 cars there, those 3 cars actually, they're not easy to come by, because Datsuns, they go pretty quick. Like I could sell my Datsun right now if I wanted to, and the condition it is, rust bucket, 14 different colors, barely runs. I could probably sell that Datsun right now if I wanted to for probably upwards of $2,500 as is. And if it was in good working condition, I could probably get another $2,000 for that. But it's one of those things. It's just like, man, I just love the car so much. Like,
can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah, I can't put there's a lot of things in my life that I can't put a price tag on. Like I have I don't know if you can see it right behind me. Everybody, we're on video, we're on a conference call, but I have an 1856 Burnside rifle. From the Civil War. It's literally right there.
Probably in that little dark spot that I can't see.
Yeah. But in 1856 Burnside rifle, nobody, you could offer me $1 million right now for it, and I'd say no.
Really?
Yeah, it's because it's got that sentimental value to it. My grandfather gave it to me shortly before he passed away. So
I guess I won't offer you $1 million, and I was going to. I was ready to. I had the money right here.
Well, since you're offering type thing. Maybe. Sorry, Grandpa. I'm totally shitting over.
Once the money comes out, you're like, oh man, sorry, Grandpa. No. I was just joking, but somebody actually has the money here in front of me. I guess I'll take it.
No, I think it would probably be one of those instances. I probably wouldn't do it because I did a lot of stuff, in my younger days. I'm 38. I say it all the time on the podcast. And I wasn't the greatest person to be around at times, and I didn't talk to my dad and my grandfather for many, many, many years, and then I moved back to Missouri, and
because you were from Pensacola.
I'm originally from Missouri, but I bounced around quite a bit, to
whenever you're doing your wrestling, you pretty much lived anywhere.
Well, it was right on the tail end of my wrestling, actually. Like I'd say about 2012, 2013. I was in a really bad headspace. Like I was pretty manic. Like I was out there type thing.
Yeah.
Like on the borderline of like going crazy type stuff. Just my life was crazy at the time. My lifestyle at the time was pretty crazy. And so that was one of those instances where I realized I was just like, man, like if you don't change, you're going to end up one of those statistics of wrestling, of being, the guy that just goes off and, essentially dies at a young age type thing.
There's a lot of them too, unfortunately. It's sad.
And it was one of those things, like, I'm not saying like I would have done anything. I mean, I don't know what I would have done at that point in time, but all I knew is I was in a very, very bad place. Very angry and volatile and hostile towards people. And it was just one of those situations where I was just like, I got to get away. And that's where I went to Pennsylvania. I was up there for about a year and a half. I did a 100-mile hike from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to Baltimore, Maryland, out of boredom. that night I just wanted to go someplace else. I was just like, I want to go someplace else. So I was like, me and the old lady at the time were like, fuck it, let's go to Florida and let's hike to Florida. And
that'd be awesome.
And I was just like, damn, like, so we did that and we got to Baltimore, Maryland, and I had probably about, when I left Pennsylvania, I had probably about $300 or $400 to my name. And by the time I got to Baltimore, several days later, I had maybe like $100 on me. And I was just like, well, because there was an instance where it rained. It ended up raining on us. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, well, let's get a motel room for a night or two to let the rain pass, because walking for 3 hours in the rain was not a very fun situation to do. And it was kind of chilly at that time too, so it was one of those.
Your socks get wet, man. I hate when I'm walking and water gets in my shoes. I just hate that feeling of wet socks and just
so I was just like, let's get a motel and let's hang out until the weather passes. And it was essentially like a day and a half. It rained for like a day and a half, and I was just like, okay, well, this took up a little bit of money. So we got down to Baltimore, and I was realizing quick, I was like, damn, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this,
I got $100.
I got $100, and we're sitting there, and we're sitting there chilling at this truck stop, and we ended up sitting down talking to this trucker, and this trucker was just like, look, he goes, this is what you got yourself into. He goes, I've been on the road as a truck driver, over the road truck driver, for probably the last 40 years. And he goes, I've seen many people in your position right now. He goes, this is what you got. This is what you have to do. Like, if you want to continue to do what you're doing, he goes, this is what it's going to look like. If you're going to, essentially car hop all the way down to Florida, he goes, this is what it's going to cost you. Because, even when you're traveling amongst the road, like, it's not free to do. Like, you've got to do stuff to, especially if you're broke and you don't have any money, you've got to do stuff for those guys that give you rides, not like talking like dirty stuff, but probably there is some people that do that. But like he essentially said, he goes, like, for me, like, if you was wanting to ride, like, I'd be like, well, can you go out and clean my tires, clean my rims, shine my rims, type stuff. And he goes, that's something along the lines of something that I might say, type thing. And it depends on how I'm feeling that day. So he was just like, he goes, and this is what it costs. This is what you're going to need to do it. Certain people have certain particulars about the certain types of products that they like to use on their trucks and stuff like that. So you also got to take that into consideration. He goes, now, do you think that's financially feasible for you to do right now? And I was like, damn, I didn't think about that. And he goes, you mentioned that you were from the St. Louis area. He goes, I'm going through St. Louis. He goes, you can hop a ride with me free of charge back to St. Louis. So I essentially came back. I came back to St. Louis between Pennsylvania and Florida. I came back to St. Louis for a few months, and then I went down to Florida.
Oh, I remember that when you went down to Pensacola.
Yeah,
for a while. You were there for a while, weren't you?
I was there for about a year and a half. Yeah. And then I went to North Carolina. I was in North Carolina for about 7-8 months, and then I moved back to Missouri, and I've been here ever since. It's one of those cases.
Yeah. Seems like that's where most people end up back, because I moved out when I got married and everything. We moved. Where the hell we live at? Actually, I think we stayed in St. John, maybe Perryville area, somewhere around there. But once I got divorced, you always seem to come back to St. John at least one time in your life. And some people stay, some people, end up getting back out again. But,
yeah, it's one of those things where like I came back here because I knew the type of living here. It's extremely cheap to live in this town.
Very cheap.
And coming back from bouncing around for 4 years, no particular job at hand. I knew that if I wanted to build myself up to a point of like, say where I'm at now, I knew that I needed to have a very low cost of living. And the only place that I knew in the world that could give me an extremely low cost of living was St. Genevieve.
$300 a month, apartments and stuff. It's cheap.
Yeah, so I went back home. I went back to the hometown. I've probably been here for about 5-6 years now.
A lot of people that live in the bigger towns and stuff, and St. John, I mean, some places give you the water, sewer, trash included in the rent. It's like, back whenever I rented there on Porter Street, it was like $375 a month, and that included water, sewer, trash. And that's a big chunk of some people's budget right there. Yeah. Water, sewer, trash can be, $100 or more. So it's crazy how much they include in the rent and how cheap it is for.
Yeah, I pay my apartment. It's like a townhouse the way it's set up. I pay $350 a month.
That's a damn good deal.
And trash, water and trash is included in it. We have a big dumpster out by the place, and then it's one of those things. Like my cost of living is very, 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 very low. Like I think most of my bills, I think I'm probably sitting at maybe $1,500 a month for just total bills.
I ain't bad at all.
No, and it's just. I wanted that extremely low, and that's just over the course of the last couple of months. Like it got a little bit more expensive just because I jumped into different ventures. The new podcast host. It actually cost me money to host there. So that's like, I think that's like $40 a month that I got to pay them to host me. So that's those extra little expenses. But before I started doing the podcast the new way that I do it now, all audio based, I didn't have a whole lot of expenses, upgrading on equipment and all that stuff, so I take that into consideration. And then I got my website, host, I got to pay for that type stuff. So I added all that into my overall expenses, and I'd say it's probably about anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, which is not bad to.
No, that's not bad. I mean, we live on a budget too. A lot of people think that we just have like an endless budget. Oh, you can go buy whatever you want, do whatever you want. And yeah, we could, but we'd be broke in no time because it adds up quick. So yeah, we live on a pretty strict budget from the advisor. This is what he gives us. We had to fill out a sheet and all of our expenses and stuff of what we think it was going to be, and then he sets up, okay, yeah, this is going to work. We can make it work. So yeah, we live on a budget too. I mean, yeah, it's a little more than what most people's are, but we don't go out and spend like $200,000 a year and just useless stuff and vacations and all that. So
right,
we do have our limits.
So yeah, you just mentioned that you live on a budget, and that's, some people might find that weird coming from a guy that's got I don't know exactly how much you got, but left, but I mean you're a little bit more well off than most people. But so for people to be like, well, you could just do this and this, like you people that listen to this podcast, you got to understand, like, that money can go very, very, very quickly. Hell, that's just like anybody. I can get $400 in my pocket. Like say the stimulus thing that we got, that shit was gone as soon as I got it.
I'm sure it did. I mean, we spent, to be honest with you, between our houses, the house that we bought, the house that we paid off, all of our bills that we paid off up front, the cars that we bought, the money that we gave to family and friends, $1 million right off the top, easily. Because this house that we're living in now was $570,000. So that was the big chunk of it. Mm-hmm. And it's more of an investment than just blowing $570,000. And then we had probably $300,000 in debt because we had our house, which was $150,000.
Right.
2 car payments, college loans, credit card debt, medical debt, you name it. And once we paid all that off and did all that, we probably spent $1 million right up front easily in no time. So it can go fast for sure.
But like you just said, that's being able to pay all that shit off. That's a good investment off off the top.
Yeah, stress relief too. People say that money don't buy happiness is dumb. It definitely makes you happy. It de-stresses you, because when you're living your life in debt like that and stress and not knowing where you're going to get your money from is stressful. And to be honest, that week that I won was the week that the house payment was due for our old house, and I wasn't working much overtime at the time. It kind of cut out, so I couldn't make the house payment that week, and I had till that Friday to make the payment for the 15 days was up. We get a late fee hit, right. So I was I don't actually recommend doing this, but I was playing the lottery just hoping to win a few $100 just to help make the house payment. That was my last ditch effort. So maybe I'll play a few tickets to where I can try to make the house payment, because I didn't want to have to put it on the credit card or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then that Wednesday I won the $10 million. I'm like, oh, I guess I can pay the house off now.
That is crazy how life how life treats people sometimes. You just never know what you're going to be dealt. I'll just use this for instance. I've been grinding this podcast the new way that I've been doing it. I've been grinding it for the last month, and I started out. I did 5 shows the first week. I did 3 shows the next. I did 2 shows the fall for the entire month. I did 2 and then 2, and I haven't made anything yet, because I don't have the views. I don't have the views up yet, but I can see them steadily, very slowly going up. And then yesterday I was sitting here in the conference room that I have, for folks listening on the podcast. I have a private conference room where me and friends come in and hang out and talk and, shoot the shit while we're sitting here working and doing stuff.
Oh, it's got marble flooring. I see a gold chandelier in the background.
Yeah, gold chandelier. Brad helped me. Brad helped me get my studio together. He dropped me about $2 million for a studio. Yeah.
You see a tiger in the background in a cage. Man, that's crazy.
Wow. But I was sitting here. I was pretty stressed out that yesterday, because I told you a little bit ago before we started the podcast that I had an instance, my last podcast that dropped, the audio was really bad, and I was kind of beating myself up about it because it was a boneheaded thing to do, to record it the way that I did, and I had a feeling something would be weird, just in the pit of my stomach, because I've done 100+ episodes now, so I knew that I shouldn't have changed up from what I was doing, but I did it. And so I was pretty mad at myself about doing that, because it was a really good show, but the audio was messed up. And how people get with audio. If an audio's crappy, they just shut it off. And I didn't want that to happen, but I have a feeling it might. And then I was sitting there and I looked at my my host site, and I noticed that I have a couple more downloads, and I was like, cool. So I went and looked at the map, and I realized that the first I really hit my first milestone, besides first views and stuff like that. I hit my first milestone that one of the things that I set for myself is to have a download international, whether it be Mexico, Canada, overseas. And I actually had a download from France. I don't know what podcast, I don't know what episode they downloaded, but somebody downloaded it. If you're here listening to that podcast, Mr. or Mrs. Frenchie, yo, what's up? What's up, bros?
I'm Brad.
I'm Jaysin Static. How are you doing? Thank you for that download.
That was one of the coolest things I thought whenever I had Mo Channel, was to see somebody in the comment section, hey, I'm from Greece, or I'm from, whatever, somewhere overseas. It was like, wow, somebody's actually watching me from over there.
It's one of those things like you don't realize the amount of reach that you can reach with people when you put yourself out there on the internet, whether it be through podcast or YouTube or anything of the sorts. You never know where that reach is going to go, or who you're going to be able to help, by just saying the stuff that you say. And that's one of the things I've talked a lot over the course of the last several podcasts is, trying to find commonalities of things, since I'm not going to get into politics with you, since you specifically asked me not to.
Yeah, on politics.
But everything is so contentious in society today. I've wanted wanted to use my platforms to talk my talk, whether it be politics or whatever. But I also want to be able to find common ground with people to essentially, I use the analogy of I'm trying to build bridges, and I want everybody to be a part of my bridge. I don't want to bring somebody on my bridge and then blow it up, essentially, because to me and my lifestyle and the way that I want to live my life and the things that I want to do with my life, it's being at odds with everybody and everything. It's just one of those things that me personally, I don't want to do it. For me, for somebody that deals with depression and shit like that, getting into that headspace of volatile and being combative with people, like, it's one of those things that it wrecks my head, and it kind of it gets me in a very bad headspace. Yeah. And I figured, like, I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm gonna talk my talk, and if people love it, people are gonna ride with me. I got a solid 7, maybe 10 people that ride or die with me, and I appreciate those people. Tyler, I call him out on every podcast just because I think it's funny.
I always see him comment on your Facebook
everything,
post,
man.
Who's that one guy that you have always been fighting with on Facebook? He always calls you a bitch and.
That's a little Marky. I call him Little Marky.
Do you guys seriously hate each other, or is it just something you guys do?
I don't hate the guy. I don't know if he hates me, and if he hates me, that's cool. I don't care. But I told the story. I actually told the story. I briefly got through this story, and it's a political thing, so I don't want to jump into it a whole lot. But it essentially started me saying taxation is theft. That's where that whole Facebook feud started from, and it's a guy that I knew. Like, I knew him from wrestling. He trained underneath one of my mentors, so I had a hand in helping him, get into the business and train with him and stuff like that. And he went up and down the road with us many months, and for a while. And I thought we were cool, and all it took was me saying taxation is theft for him to be pissed off at me, and it kind of grew from there. Every so often he comes back and comments on the comment, and I'll comment on it. And right now it's one of those things. I've told people I don't have no ill will towards the guy. I wish him the best in his life. But at this point, it's become a joke to me. And it's one of those things. It's just like, I have people like, why are you feeding him? Why are you letting it go? Like, I was just, because it's fun. I could talk about it. If people bring it up, like, it's a funny story to talk about.
When I'm reading his message, I'm like, wow, this guy is seriously taking his time out of his day to just spew hate. I mean, some of it's pretty graphic. I'm like,
yeah. And it's just like, it's one of those things. It's like, I've had people slide in the DM and be like, dude, just stop talking to him, block him. I'm like, nah, man. Like, whether I like it or not, like, I am somewhat in, the public sphere of, because I do YouTube, even though I've got a very small base behind me, I'm in the public sphere. And if I can use something to have a funny story for my base, then hell, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to keep it going until he gets tired of it.
Or enjoying it, yeah. So,
it's one of those things. Well, we're going to wind down here. We got about 13 minutes left. Let's just start kind of winding the thing down. What is some things that people can do if they do happen to fall into a situation like yours?
I've obviously talked to a financial advisor, CPA, because your taxes are going to be with you for the rest of your life. A lawyer.
Screw those taxes.
I'm getting ready to mail off. Let's see. I paid $7,000 to state in December, just kind of like an estimated taxes, because you get a discount on federal if you pay early on your state. Like, I don't know what it is, a few grand. And then I ended up having to pay another $21,000 total between federal and state. So I owe like $28,000 in taxes. I'm getting ready to mail that check off tomorrow, which. But that's basically money that was made last year.
Ooh, that's like a gut punch to me. It's not even my money, but that's a gut punch to me.
It used to be like my yearly salary on my old job. It's like, man, I'm giving my whole former job salary in just one check. It's crazy. Yeah. The lawyer for your, you definitely want to get your estate plan, your trust. If you have kids, you want to get them in the will and, mandate what happens if, God forbid, you and your wife died at the same time. It pretty much protects them as they get older until they get to the legal adult age to make the decisions on their own. Right. Definitely get those three things and just don't be stupid. I mean, we had that urge. I especially, when I won, I'm like, I feel invincible. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Nothing can stop me, you know. And I made some mistakes along the way. I'm not perfect, but I learned from those mistakes. Now I'm more in the mindset of just letting my accounts grow and staying home and staying out of trouble and not doing dumb stuff like I used to do. And thankfully, that stuff that I did in the past didn't hurt us. We ended up making it all back, and you know, life goes on. You know?
Do you care to go over any of those screw ups that you did?
Well, the majority of it was the stuff I did in my vehicles, the truck, the car, wasting money on that. And there were times where I spent money that I shouldn't have and didn't discuss it with the wife. And I made that mistake, and we sat down, we talked about it, we talked it over, and I don't make those mistakes anymore. It was one of those things where I let the money make the decision instead of me making the decision of maybe I should discuss this with my wife and all that. I made that mistake, and I deeply apologize for it. And it's a mistake I'll never make again. And it didn't cause us to almost get divorced or anything. We just do it and talk about it. So
do you I don't want to get into like investment portfolio type stuff, but do you invest in anything?
We are in with Edward Jones. We do mainly mutual funds and bonds. Because mutual funds are basically a bunch of companies into one, like Walmart, Amazon, Apple, and I have a bunch of those investments where I own a little bit of each. Like I'll own maybe like 1% of Tesla and 1% of Walmart, and then the bonds are basically government bonds that really help you when the market's down. It kind of protects you a little bit, but back when we had this pandemic stuff and when it was still going on, but whenever the stock market just went to shit, nothing was helping. Everything was crashing. So we ended up losing like $800,000 in value in just a matter of weeks. Yeah. We got it all back. I mean, I think we're still down like 40 grand for the year, but we were down over $800,000 back in March. It was scary there for a little bit. I'm like, man, but we held tight. We didn't sell. We just kind of cut our spending. We just kind of hung tight.
That's one thing that I've never done. I've always been interested in stocks and stuff like that, and maybe dabbling in that and getting into it. It's just one of those things I've never really. I've always been interested in it, but I've never actually dipped my toe in it. It's one of those things I might do eventually, because like you don't have to have a whole lot of money to start it. You can choose to do it that way. You can do like I think there's like penny stocks and stuff like that type. So it's one of those things I think eventually down the road I might actually try to dip my toe in.
Robinhood's a good one. I did that during the pandemic. I used my own money for that. I made a few $100. I bought Boeing when it was like $90 a share, and I sold when it was $150. Just little things. It wasn't a lot of money. But the stuff that my advisor does, I couldn't even begin to tell you exactly what he does or how he does it. It's stuff that he just knows from experience that this is going to work. We try it works. Sometimes it doesn't. We sell it and we go somewhere else. So but I let him handle all that because I don't know where to begin.
Do you still do that Robinhood thing? I know you mentioned it to me. You had a live stream about a week ago.
Not anymore. I cashed everything out. I saw a little bit of a profit, and I'm like, I'm just going to maybe see if it goes back down, but it never did. Everything kind of kept going back up, and I'm like, damn, I should have held my money in there longer, but you just don't know. It could have all came crashing down. I would have lost a few.
Yeah, or you invested in any type of crypto or gold or silver, anything like that?
XRP, which is it's kind of like the bank. What is that thing called? It's where the banks send money. There's a name for it, but XRP is another version of it where it sends money faster for the banks. It's cheaper. It's not really taken off yet because there's a lot of regulations on it and stuff. But once they get more banks, I got in when it was like 14 cents a share, and then we cashed out when it hit I think 25, 30 cents. I got back in because it dropped back down to 14 cents. So I bought another 1,700 shares worth. Yeah. So I got that. Bitcoin, I've never really gotten into because I felt like I was a little too late to the game on that because that's like $9,000 a coin. So just XRP is what I'm mainly in for ourselves right now. So
a couple more questions. We got about 6 minutes left. I'm going to ask this question for everybody. And this is just a funny question. What do you think is the biggest mammal that you can knock out with one punch?
Oh, man. Biggest mammal. I don't know, a kangaroo whip my ass. Are they a mammal, kangaroo? I don't think they are.
I'm not sure.
Boy, biggest mammal. One punch.
One punch mammals.
Maybe an elephant because they're slow. But I mean, they probably trample the hell out of you. But if I had like some good brass knuckles on and just hit it right in the face, but
you're going with an elephant.
Because I want to feel like I could knock an elephant out. So that'd be like, can't do a giraffe because I wouldn't be able to reach the motherfucker's head. You know,
that's awesome.
I mean, just biggest. I mean, realistically, no. But if I had to just choose a biggest mammal, that's probably what I would choose.
That's
in reality, no. I'd probably never be able to knock an elephant out. But if I'm put on the spot where I got to pick something that big, then yeah, I'd probably go elephants.
That's awesome. I've had somebody say a koala bear. I've had somebody say a human.
I could have said that.
And then and now I've had somebody say an elephant. That's awesome. I love the way that went. And
obviously, disclose I'm not being realistic with people. I'm just they put me on the ice and just the biggest mammal, and I just wanted to go extreme. And obviously, I could probably knock a human, not every human, but
that's fine. It's a funny little question.
There was a dude that actually got into a fight with a kangaroo, wasn't it? Where his dog was getting headlocked.
Oh yeah, I've seen that video. That dude straight up.
The kangaroo was like, "What the fuck just happened?" He's like staring at him.
That kangaroo was messing that dog up, and he walked up and he was like, "Bop!" Like a right hook straight to his face, and he was
the kangaroo was standing there like, "What the fuck just happened? This dude just punched me in the face."
I was just like, the first time I seen that, man, I laughed probably for about 10 minutes straight and was just like, repeat.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God. Could you imagine something like that? Like
kangaroos can mess you up, man.
Imagine like walking out your back door and you're seeing a kangaroo there, like beating the crap out of your dog. And then you just all of a sudden you're just like, screw it. I'm going to go out there and fight that thing.
That's a weird day for sure. Would that be something I would love to see just in person? I mean, I wouldn't probably want to fight a kangaroo because they could kick my ass probably, but
yeah. And lastly, to wind it down even more, what is something that you can tell the people, motivational, inspirational type stuff that you could leave this thing on a high point? Hello, wife.
Yeah, she was asking me if I was almost done. Sorry, repeat that.
What is something that you could tell the people? Leave both my base and your fan base. Leave those guys on a high point. Something inspirational, motivational that you've done in your life, whether over the years or up until kind of like a life lesson by Brad. Millionaire Vlogs, a life lesson.
Especially the situation I'm in is just to never listen to the hate. You're going to get, especially in my shoes, I get a ton of hate. And some people break down and listen to that hate and they give up. They're like, you know what, maybe they're right. But the moment that you give in to somebody talking down to you or saying you can't do this, you can't do that, to me, should be motivation for you to prove to them that you can do it. Mm-hmm. I feel that the hate that I get is just motivation of, I'm going to show them guys that they're wrong. So that's one of my big things is just never listen to the hate. Keep doing what you're doing and just prove them haters wrong. And you might fail. You might, want to give up, but don't. Just keep pressing on and prove to them down the road, like, hey, you guys were wrong. And that's kind of what I'm doing is I've made mistakes. I've wanted to give up sometimes, not anything crazy, but definitely don't listen to the hate for sure.
Yep. And with that being said, you guys, at the close of the show, like I always say, I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys for stopping by. And I really do appreciate all the views that you guys give me, the people sharing stuff out. I appreciate you guys like crazy. You would not believe how much that I appreciate you guys. And if you guys enjoyed this, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, be sure to share it out to your friends and family because, that helps me out more than anything. It helps me out for more than anything, being able to share these things out. It helps me out a lot. And other than that, you guys, I just want you guys to understand that no matter what you do in your life, you got to wake up every morning, like I always say, 10 toes down and be ready for that fight that next morning, because you never know what life's going to throw at you. So you've got to be on your toes and ready to fight every single morning that you guys wake up. I can't say that enough to you guys. Just be ready. Always stay fighting. If you get knocked down, cool. Just remember to get back up, because, you can't stay down forever. Other than that, you guys, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I thank you guys for stopping by one more time on the Jaysin Static Experience. Peace out, everybody. Until the next one. Brad, say bye.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate this.
I appreciate
I'll
it,
see you
dude.
guys.
Yeah, man.